YouTubers. Oops. Oh, sorry. I got my beard mixed up with my moustache. Sort that out. Nah. Yo, this is a sonic test. Hold on, it's okay. This is a sonic test. Look at the reverse image, you got it the wrong way. It's a beard, not a moustache. Oh man. It's like looking after a pet. Yo YouTubers, how you doing? You alright? I'm just doing this one, as promised, a little speech to put up for you all, just a small one for try out my old microphone, my studio microphone, as opposed to, I'll just do a comparison test, right folks? This is my studio microphone, right? Not really familiar with how to use these things because of how sensitive they are and all that stuff, yeah, but I need to be able to speak very low, very gently. Speak very gently, right? Because I'm in a block of flats and it's getting in the evening time. And it's important that the folks out there watching can understand what I'm saying, actually. With my Scousey Baconian accent as well, it's probably hard for some people to watch my videos and understand what I'm saying. So we have to put on our YouTube. Like when we were younger and our mums and dads used to have a telephone manner. And someone would ring the house and your mum would pick the phone up. She'd be talking to us going like, "Hey, eat your tea. Hey, get your bedroom tidy, whatever." And someone would ring on the phone and go, "Hello? The Williams household speaking?" You've got to do that for YouTube, haven't you? Because you've got to think of people who might be foreign and they're only just familiar with the English language and they've got accents to deal with. So I have to put on my YouTube voice, my deep YouTube voice. Hello, you're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox on KLS. KLOS Radio. In the studio, I've got with me Roller Coaster Ride, guitarist from the Cheap Instruments. He's come all the way to Los Angeles to make me laugh. See, it's got that sound, hasn't it? All the microphones got that radio DJ sound. I haven't actually got any compression on this machine. I have got compression, but I don't think I can add it while it's in this mode. I'm getting boring on it at the moment. Let's do a microphone comparison test, right, folks? I've got my Zoom Studio thing. The Zoom R24 is my sound card, right? My interface, my audio interface. I can plug this in to one channel, right? And then it's got the built-in microphones. I wonder if I can use both at the same time. I don't know. Let's give it a try, eh? So I'm about to switch on the built-in microphones as well and see if it adds to everything. I don't know. Can I have all these going at the same time? I don't know. Let's have a look, eh? Oh, hey, all the levels are going up. Hey, this is good. So we've got microphones here as well. If I turn down my studio microphone, which is completely turned down now, right? Now, any viewers out there, right? This is now the Zoom R24 picking up all the sound. It's got two microphones built in, little stereo things. And if I go close up and go right to the right, how you doing there? Hello? You're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox on KLOS Radio. That was the Sex Pistols from Nevermind the Bollocks album. I'll go to the left. How you doing? You okay? So it hasn't got as classy a sound as it's a bit more plasticky sounding. So I'll turn it down, right? Turn it right down as you'll see it goes. Back my microphone, studio microphone back up. It's a little bit smoother, isn't it? Like a warmer sound. I'm actually using a Behringer B2, I think it's called, and I got it second hand, very cheap. I mean, they are cheap brand new, aren't they? But they're very cheap, but they're good for the money apparently. So you listen to Jonesy's Jukebox on KLLOS radio. Got me with the studio with me today. Pardon me. Got Bruce Williams from the band Cheap Instruments. Gonna do a couple of songs for us now. I should be a DJ, shouldn't I? Oh, I wasted all this time. Alright, so let's get on with it. I just need to know I can talk in this room, right? And, you know, the microphone's picking it up. The viewers on YouTube can hear it when I upload it. They don't have to turn the volumes up because I know the sound on my videos isn't too good sometimes. And I just want to make sure you're all happy out there, you know? I want to make sure you're getting your money's worth. Considering my channel's not monetized. Okay. If you don't support Liverpool Football Club, why not? They might tram your Rovers. Are you wasting your time going to tram your for? I'm only joking. Before I get the Tram Your Rovers fan club. That can be. It's just a joke. It was an intricate, complicated joke that people who live outside Merseyside will never understand. Okay, you listened to Jonesy's Jukebox, that was the Ramones. Judy is a punk. Pardon me. I haven't got the studio today. Okay, that's me Steve Jones impersonation over with. Total respect to Jonesy. Do you know why I play the electric guitar? Because, you know, Steve Jones out the Sex Pistols, folks. He's very popular now. He's like literally a star now, isn't he? Just by interviewing people. I mean, who hasn't he interviewed? I can't believe it. But if it wasn't for that guy, right, folks, I would never have ever played the guitar ever. I wanted to be a drummer. And if it wasn't for Jonesy, and I'd heard everybody, folks. I'd heard Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Queen, all the rock bands on earth. You know, I was always surrounded by people with record collections and into the old rockers and that, like. And I just wanted to play the drums. I was obsessed with Buddy Rich when I was a child. I just wanted to play the drums like Buddy Rich. And as I got older, all the rock bands and everything, heard everything, seen everything. We had to even go through Gary Glitter and The Sweet and all those things. And I never wanted to play a guitar until I heard the Sex Pistols. So there you go. So that's where you go. So Jonesy, if you're out there watching, sorry, I would never play guitar if it wasn't for you. Thanks, mate. I'm probably the only person he didn't steal from. Gave something to me instead. Alright, back to the speech, folks. So the fun's over with now. Everybody happy out there? Everyone comfortable? Sitting comfortable and happy and that? This is not a live stream, by the way. This is, I'm recording it and I'll upload it in a minute when I'm finished. And as promised, it's a continuum from the last speech I did, where I mentioned I was going to talk about my own testimony, my own statement, the proof that the Freemasonic Bible, their version of events, the Freemasonic version of events, the King James Bible, even though it's a King James, folks, they keep it at the east end of the lodge, eastenders.com, the way she walks around and she just quotes lines out the Bible, doesn't she? She, oh, thou shalt not steal. Oh, you will not do this. Don't put your washing in the dryer until it's been in the... What's it called? Don't put your washing in the tumble dryer until it's been in the spin dryer first. The laundrette commandments. Well, she's always preaching from the Bible, wasn't she? You know what I mean, right? And the series was called EastEnders. Now, in real life, she's an actress, obviously, right? She's an actress. She's not interested in the Bible, obviously. But it's funny how they have her reciting from it all the time. Let's just switch this microphone off. Right, the other one, I mean. And I always saw through it and thought, wow, what's the connection here? The program's called EastEnders, right? Freemason, it's broadcast from London. It's a London thing. They're always saying the Queen Vic, aren't they? They actually say the Queen in the context of the speech all the time, but they say Vic, don't they? The Queen Vic. And in reality, in every Freemasonic temple, right? I'm not knocking the Masons here, right, guys. It's not like I'm having a go at you or threatening or trying to bring the organisation down, nothing like that. It's not about that, man. It's more about, like, I've got my side of my opinions and they've got theirs, right? So I can still talk quietly and still be picked up doing it in the Jersey voice. That's what he does. I'm not really burping there, by the way. I don't want to do the farts. It just people might be a bit too offended. But yeah, the east end of every Freemasonic temple, apparently there'll be a King James Bible there, right? I love the King James Bible myself. I know it's been manipulated. I know the translation stinks. I know all the extensions of words and misconceptions of metaphors are prevalent in the English language. If it's coming from the ancient tongues and ancient writers, we're bound to mess up somewhere along the line in the future with our translations in our English language. And I've seen all that. Like, I've read the whole book from beginning to end, right, folks? Wouldn't recommend it unless you actually want to do it. But I would recommend everyone keeps one. There's a different, have one in your house and make sure to really, like, but it can cause a lot of problems. But the biggest problem is because of Freemasonry, all the hypocrisy and all the charges against it and everything, like, it emerges because of what we call the law. Not L-O-R-E. L-A-W. The law. The Freemasons invented. Now, here's a fascinating fact. Not many people know. There's a plumb line in the Bible between, the numbers, the 3 6s, right? It just so happens our telephone number in Britain, in America, they call 911, don't they? Something's going wrong, call 911. In England, we say 999, right? Which is obviously 3 6s upside down. Now, In Revelation, the code, the three sixes, was a warning in code in letters between ministers and people who are, obviously believers, right? I won't label them Christians and all that. I'll just say believers for the sake of arguments, because we all know. Like I said, if you're familiar with a guy called Pastor Dowell out there, you'll be familiar with some of his revelations, basically, that Christianity isn't what the real Jesus was promoting. It's a later addition, and it's still it's carried on deceiving people in its own way, but it's not fair to it. I don't attack Christians themselves, because they're it takes a while for people to realise these things, and but Emperor Nero, right? Emperor Nero was a very evil man, even compared to the other Roman emperors. By Roman emperor standards, Nero was extremely evil and vindictive towards believers, right? Believers, followers, believers, doves and lambs. Humble, meek, nice, kind people who just want to get on, right? And Emperor Nero, when you were writing letters to one another back in them days, the days when John the Revelator was writing his things and stuff, like, everything, you had to write everything in code in case, let's just suppose I wrote a letter now to one of my friends saying, and I'm not being literal here, folks, and just as an example, don't back Prince Charles whatsoever. He's gonna be king soon, and he might start making a mess and doing things even worse than there might be sort of mistakes and discrepancies even worse than what we're all used to. But instead of saying Prince Charles in the letter, right, just supposing it was stopped in the post or in the mail, or it was an email in our day, it'd be an email or right. Instead of saying Prince Charles in writing or letters, I would invent a code number or some kind of code language so the authorities can't pin it on me later on if they intervene with the letter or the message that I'm saying, like, psst, or say you were abroad and you say, Barack Obama's this and that, like, or Donald Trump's this and that. Well, you'd invent a code language, right? And we all know as times pass by, the Vicar of God, the Vatican, the Pope, right? Everyone's defined the three sixes as the Vicar of God and the Vatican, and the Pope is the modern day, yeah. Well, it's actually Nero was who they were talking about back then. Nero still hadn't arrived. And to a believer and to a follower, believers and followers, they'd have been in total dread of this guy, this Roman emperor that was about to arrive. He was going to kill everybody and do extremely cruel things to them, in a mockery sense, hanging them on crosses, burning them, all that kind of stuff. He used to light them, like bonfires with people just for fun, So that's what it's saying, right? Which what a lot of people don't realise. There's a plumb line in the Bible of the three sixes are mentioned there twice, not just once. Now, the second time they're mentioned, most of us are familiar with, and it's basically secret writings. John the Revelator and other people who are associated on the same circles would have communicated on the same thing, saying, "There's this guy, 666." With this code and all that. It'd have been a clever code, so that it was impossible for when the Romans arrested you and all that, and they sit looking through your letters and everything, they'd be like, what's this 666 all about, but it doesn't have the words Emperor Nero or Nero Pontius or Pontiff Nero or whatever, so they can't arrest you for it or pin you down for it, yeah. Whereas you actually wrote the guy's name down, and later on the Romans burst into your living room and you're about to have a Bible meeting, or a scripture meeting, like. As soon as they see you've written down the name of the emperor on pieces of paper to warn each other, like, they can go, whoa, treachery, treason. So they invented code, yeah, which is at the time, that 3 sixes code was to warn people about Emperor Nero. Obviously God was telling John the Revelator in advance like a kind of prophetic message to warn everybody, right? And they're the lawgivers. The Romans are the lawmakers and the lawgivers, aren't they? They're the police. They're the cops. You know? The Romans were the cops. And Herod and the so-called royal lineage of Israel, as they say, whatever that's supposed to be. They're the rulers. They're the kings, the actual kings of the district, aren't they? You know, Herod or whatever, like. So it's a deal between the cops and the kings, and the pontiff is their leader, isn't it? The Pope. Right. But what a lot of people don't realise, the three sixes, if you're not interested in the book, you won't have read it and sifted through every single word, but you know when the Queen of Sheba starts seducing Solomon, she actually gives him 666 shekels of gold every year. Well, think about it, man. It could have been anything, couldn't it? Printed in the book, in words, printed matter. I believe it was manipulated. I don't know. I believe it was manipulated by whoever translated the book. Because Queen of Sheba was the bad influence in all of it, wasn't she? She wasn't a good influence. She was a bad influence. And later on, Solomon repents and writes Ecclesiastes, right? We know that Solomon repented and thought, oh, what have I done? All the wealth and splendour was worthless. You know, he writes Ecclesiastes to make atonement. And it's in the scriptures, right? Or it's in the Bible, you know, but why 666 shekels of gold? Why not like 650? Why not 500 or 700? The lucky 7. Why not 777 shekels of gold? You know, wouldn't make much difference, would it? To the Queen of Sheba, like whoever the Queen. Think about it, man. The only person on this planet we talk about, even like, say there's queens in like Sri Lanka or somewhere like that, they've got their own queens, or, you know, there's one in Japan, isn't there? This woman, like, empress in Japan or whatever, right? But when we watch the TV or we hear the radio or the media, as soon as we hear the two words, the Queen, we don't think of all them other people, do we? We just see one we just see one person in our heads. It's like we've been completely and utterly mind controlled to accept that. As if we're gullible enough to actually worship it as well, even worse. But I don't worship none of that, right? So we say the two words, the Queen, right? Now they don't say it when they say Queen of Sheba in the Bible in the English language, bearing in mind that the Freemasons keep a copy of the Bible in the East End of the Lodge, right? It doesn't say Queen. It doesn't say Queen Sheba. Her name's not Sheba, is it? It's a district. What is her name? Is it, you know, Queen Doris, or, you know, Queen Maggie, or I don't know, what's her name? Does anyone know? I haven't actually looked into that one. But anyway, the point is, it just says the Queen and then of Sheba. So it's the Queen, and she's doing double deals with Solomon. Because what she's doing is she's bribing Solomon. It's like bribing the cops, or the the lineage, the king's lineage of Israel. It's bribing the cops, isn't it, to do things for her? That's what's going on there. Like, he might not have been aware of it at the time, as he was being won over and he was being given thousands of women and all that. Like, but it's what we call a bribe, isn't it? And it happens a lot in law, doesn't it? A guilty man could be up, you know, for something really wicked. It's usually something finances, usually, isn't it, when people get off lightly. The only time you can't really evade being really, you know, is when you've killed or harmed another person, you know what I mean? There's a fine line, isn't there, where the Doesn't matter who you are. You could be anyone's best. You could be the best friends of royalty, everything. But if say you are in a drunken rage or in a drug binge or something, kill someone in a mad accident kind of thing, or you can't hide it. When if it'll probably most likely have to be emerged in law. But things with like money and business and commerce and bribery and all those matters, they can cover everything, can't they? Because there's no dead bodies or someone saying he hit me or she hit me or she stabbed me. That's when the law have to intervene, is when violence or murder or whatever, or rape, anything inflictive, and the true sins, the original sins, the ones that are bad to another person. All this bribery business and stuff, man, we all know the whole world's doing it. We know offshore businesses and all that stuff, offshore, politicians, royalty, everyone, Bright House, all these little mad things that have emerged. So we know they're up to, I don't really care myself, that's not my complaint. But it does, it's very reminiscent of the Queen and the King Solomon, who's not, they're not related, they're not part of the same track. And that's what the Bible eventually starts saying, doesn't it? He was getting into foreign women too much. He was, the whole thing was going thingy. But the 606, if you imagine just the number 666 printed where it says, and Solomon received 666 shekels every single year of the Queen. Then you imagine a plumb line in the printed matter. Your Bible's closed, it's just ink on paper, right? Just think of the plumb line, 666, and it's like this line that goes all the way to where Emperor Nero is being declared and warned about. Say, ooh, what's this fella? He's even worse than the former kings or the former emperors. This guy's going to be totally evil. By a goody two-shoes standard, it's devilish. Let's put it that way, right? So when it's all exaggerated, it's like the Antichrist, the beast, and all that kind of, the way the movies and Hollywood and everything. An evil man can be just as bad as any monster, can't he? You know what I mean? Any beast. If it means inflicting evil upon another individual because of the faith or because of the not being part of what they do, that's just as bad as any demon, isn't it? You know what I mean? Demonic activity can be done by any man or woman. Right, so bearing in mind, right, we've got a plumb line in the Bible between the 3 6s, and it's Solomon, Queen of Sheba, Emperor Nero is so there is a triangle there, in my opinion. So it's like magical, and it's hidden and it's invisible kind of thing. It's not meant to be seen, because it means it's all the lawgivers and all the lawful organisations. Now, there's good cops out there, folks, and there's good things happen in courts, and when some people go to court and they win the cases because they deserve to and all that, we can't argue about that, can we? Not everything is unfair in the world, the judicial world of law courts and everything. Some people get justice and some people don't. And some things are fixed and some things are organised. And it really depends on who you are. And if you're targeted, and if someone doesn't like you, like I've been targeted, man, I know what it feels like. Hold on, I'm putting that down because it looks cool. I'm only joking. Anyway, you're targeted and all that, you know what I mean, you know what it's like. They can badmouth you and put you down, or it depends on who you are as an individual, and you might have done things that the system does. Like me, I put all my targeted individual experiences down to when I was a punk rocker, because we were listening to records that said, God save the Queen, a fascist regime. I think all of us let ourselves in for we basically walking into the sheriffs with our hands raised as soon as we started listening to the Sex Pistols. It's like we gave the authorities a yardstick to start beating us up with immediately, didn't we? Because we're not actually going along with the system. I mean, I wasn't a punk in the 77. I was too young, really. I was kind of still a kid. It was 78, 79 I actually started listening to that music. I wouldn't call myself a punk. A punk really is a guy that lives in squats and sticks needles in his arms, basically. Sort of like Iggy Pop or Lou Reed, Velvet Underground, they're punks. Dee Dee Ramone was a punk. You know, these guys are like hardcore junkies, basically, but they're not necessarily evil. You know, they might not be evil or whatever, but, you know, Dee Dee Ramone, you know, I love the Ramones, me, man. I think the Ramones are great, but not all the Ramones were into drugs, really. You know, as far as I know. It was all about the music, really. But Dee Dee was the main writer in the band, wasn't he? But he was, you know, he was known for his habits or whatever. Wasn't a bad guy, though, you know. So punk rock is the definition of a kind of music category. And punk individual, punk person, you know, they're the guys you'll see like that, you know. That's a punk. And they live in a squat. But anyway, the police and the law and all those things. There must have been a lot of people involved in the punk rock music that were banged up in jails. Not because they were committing crimes or they were essentially criminals, but because they'd had, like, you know, they might have painted the picture of the Queen on the back of the bikers' levers, or, you know, basically we were literally admitting to the authority. Because I got targeted for I defaced a coin. I made the Queen look like a punk rocker on a coin once. You know, just a novelty thing. It wasn't like. But man, I'm sure I got a load of stick for that, because it is actually against the law, isn't it? They would actually use that yardstick, right? They'd say he's engraved. It's defacing the Queen. That's what they call it. I say, I didn't deface the Queen. If the Queen was asleep in her bed at night and I drew, like, you know, pictures of penises on her forehead or whatever, like, and she woke up in the morning and looked in the mirror and, like, I'm not there, like, sneaked out, like, that's what you call defacing, you know what I mean? But you can't deface a piece of metal, can you? You know, you can't deface a piece of metal, a coin. Let me show you one. I've got one over here to show you. I actually found this one, actually. You know, there's a picture of the Queen, right? That's a 50p piece. Now, even if I was to, like, get an engraver out now and go and make her look like, I don't know, do something nice even. Say I did something nice. Say I, like, tried to make, like, I don't know, like put a hat on her head. She's got a crown on her, and say I vandalised it and made it look like she was wearing a hat, but it was one of her favourite hats. Would that be defacing the Queen as well? Because I've vandalised a coin, a piece of metal that you hand over the counter. You know, the laws are twisted. Because do you know people do that kind of thing? Vandals or, you know, graffiti. You know, like, let's put it this way, during the Second World War, you could buy potties in England with Hitler's face on them. Now, if I was in Nazi Germany, I owned one of those potties because I either sympathised with the Allies and the English and stuff, or I was like an anti-Nazi individual. Hitler would have done me for owning one of those potties, wouldn't he? Because it's got his face on it, and I'd be having a dump on it. Obviously, if it was a potty, you know, a toilet thing. Right. So that's defacing, isn't it? But it's not actually doing it to the person. It's a potty with a picture on it. You see where I'm getting at, right? But the laws, the authorities, the Romans, the rulers, the imperialists is the word I'm looking for. Imperialists tend to, like, invent a law knowing that we're going to break it, knowing that someone out there is going to break it. And one of them is, do not deface Her Majesty the Queen, because it's actually against the law and you could be fined or even imprisoned for treason. Say, look, man, say I did go to court for that, and I didn't, obviously, because it's so absurd. They wouldn't have took me to court legally. I would have argued about it. that it was just a coin, that was a piece of metal. You know, but it it didn't go to court. They wouldn't have done it like that. They'd have, the authorities would have sent certain men under the radar into my life to make me life a misery, which is what they kind of did, I suppose. Certain individuals surrounding me, but they don't tell you who they are or who they're working for or whether they're trained or whatever. And all that's in their minds is like, he defaced, figurehead, and then we've got to punish him. You know, like what's it called, a smear campaign or a bullying campaign or whatever, make your life difficult. I've been through all that, like, but I can't imagine what like people like Johnny Lydon have been through and all. You know, these. I can't imagine it, like, where you're a public figure. That the kind of harassment that would follow. So what we're talking about is some of these laws, they're just not legitimate, right? They're just not legitimate laws. They're just there to suit the authorities. Which brings me to the principle of bent cops, right? Bent coppers. Coppers who don't tell the truth. You know, there's got to be good coppers. There's got to be. I've been arrested by policemen for things, right? And when they're putting the handcuffs on you, you feel like punching them and cracking up with them and fighting with them, don't you? You know what I mean? But like, usually I'm okay. But like, I remember getting stitched up once buying a bit of weed. You know, I bought like £15 worth of weed once, right, guys? I'm not exaggerating. This is proof that the coppers are bent, right? This is proof. Tell me if I'm wrong. I went to a particular lad. I knew the lad. I'd been to him a couple of times. He lived here, actually, in this block of flats. Like, I don't know if he's still here, like, but I'll never buy weed off him again. I'll tell you that for nothing. But anyway, I went into him, like, I spoke to him a couple of times, and I was familiar with him, like. But I bought a bit of weed off him. I'm not ashamed of talking about these things, folks. It's another thing that's not really against. I'm not as heavily into it as I used to be, right, folks? Honestly, but I don't think it should be illegal. I think it should be legal to stop people being labelled as criminals. You know what I mean? I think it's wrong. If it makes people dopey and it doesn't. You know, it kind of takes away from your natural existence and that. That's my complaint about all those things. You know, I'd rather people be used to being themselves first and a bit of recreation if that's what they choose, right? But the point I'm making is, I don't think it's a crime. I don't think cannabis is a crime, right? So let's get that one straight, guys. I've met so many people who are into weed, and I just know they're not bad people, you know. But I've also met like scallywags and dealers and all kinds of characters who. I wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire. You know what I mean? I wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire. I'd concrete welly them in 5 seconds if I could and get away with it. But when you go to someone to buy a piece of weed off someone, right, and you can give them the money remember, when you hand over your money, there's a transaction and there's a queen's head on your coins. It's usually a note, obviously, if you're buying weed, isn't it, right? £15, man. £15 of my own money handed over to this dude with the queen's head on it and all the magic geometry. And I go, alright, mate. And he goes, yeah, there's your weed, yeah, man. And I was actually in his flat when I scored as well. This is the crazy thing about it, right? And you know, because it was so ridiculous, I wouldn't have suspected this guy of ever having anything to do with it. Like, I thought it was just chance. But no, I bought this block off him, right? This was a few years ago. This was a good few years. Well, how many years ago now? Maybe 10. I don't know, 15. I don't know, it was a long time ago. But I bought the weed off this lad. And then he goes, "Are you going? I'm going down with you. You know, I'm going to the shop now, so I'll go down with you." It was a bit of an unusual circumstance where I didn't just walk out of his flat and he closed the front door. He said, "I'll come down with you, like, because I'm going to the shop." Do you understand? So we both got in the lift together. And we goes down to the ground floor. I've got weed in my pockets. Obviously, he hasn't. right? Obviously, he knows I've got it in my pocket. Everyone's in place. Do you understand? We've got him. He's got it on him now, right? And then he says to me on the way out to the actual. Well, I was still in the lift, about to get out on the ground floor. And I'm sorry about if this seems a bit tedious and boring, guys, but I know some people like hearing me talk, so I don't know. But anyway, we get out to the lift, and in this block on the ground floor, there used to be a communal phone, a pay phone right by where the kiosk is, the kind of the reception thing is. There used to be a public phone on the wall, like a phone box thing that you put coins in, I've just handed over my £15 sterling, and that's in his pocket. And he's handed me his block of vegetable matter. And then he says to me, just before we leave the building, he goes, I know some lad, who's got a guitar, he doesn't want it. And you know me, I'm a guitarist, I'm bound to... He's got this cheap guitar. He doesn't use it. He's never going to use it, apparently. And I told him about you. You play the guitar, and he said, if you want it, you can have it. You know what I mean? Are you up for it? And I went, wow, yeah. That's a pleasant, nice one, man. He's just sold me a nice little block of weed, and I went to him, yeah, man. And this is just before we left the building. We're standing in the reception area where the telephone used to be, right, folks? And then he goes, well, I'll tell you what, I'll phone him now, and ask him. I'll phone him and ask him if he's still got it. All right. And I was like, wow, because you're a bit shocked, aren't you, when someone says they want to give you a guitar, like a cheap guitar, but with me, I can customise them and things like that. I'm always interested, because even cheap guitars can blow your mind, you know what I mean? But anyway, that's not the point. In my head was this, guitar that he was... Wow, someone going to get me a guitar for nothing? Brilliant. So he goes up to the phone, and he picks his phone up, and he puts the coin in, and he goes, and I don't know, I stood back, I didn't listen to every word he said, I didn't know what he said, but he could have been saying anything. He's like, you still got that guitar there, mate, yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, he was phoning the police, but I didn't know that. Or he's phoned someone to make a signal. Right. And at the time, I was 40-something years old, not a troublemaker. It's not like I was going around like a gangster or something. I was just intended to walk out the block. I lived in another block of flats that used to be behind this block of flats. They're gone now, you know what I mean? They've been knocked down, but all I would have done was just walk to my block of flats, chilled out in my pad, and just got stoned, basically. Right? But he diverts me, doesn't he, and says, do you want me to just phone this lad then and see if he's still got that guitar, Well, yeah, go ahead, man. So he picks up the phone, he says a couple of words, I didn't hear what he was saying, I wasn't listening to him, because I didn't have any suspicions, you understand, folks? He was like someone I knew, and he just sorted me out, for crying out loud. I won't say his name, but, 666, see what I'm saying? If I could say his name in code if you were all in the know, so you all knew not to buy weed off him, if I was a kind of biblical writer, don't want you all to know who he really is online, so he might be doing me for slander or whatever, so I'll give you a code name, But he makes this little phone call, he's only a couple of seconds, then he hangs up and he looks at me and he goes, yeah, he's still got it. And I'll get it for you in a couple of days, alright? So I was like, yeah, okay. And he was saying he was going to the shop, remember? And then we both walk out the door at the same time, both of us. Right? Next thing, the first thing I see is a police car parked right in front of the block of flats. No cause for alarm. We hadn't done nothing. We weren't troublemaking. We weren't making a racket or anything like that. We're somewhere a need for, when there's a need for the police to be there, or a reason for you to cause, to disturb a disturbance that makes them want to be there, But there's a police car outside the block, and I'm just looking at the car thinking, nothing to do with us, obviously, you know what I mean? And I've got a block of weed, even with the block of weed in my pocket, I didn't feel nervous or nothing, because I was thinking, you know, it's obviously nothing to do with us, is it? You know, because, you know, you can't you, you know? And the next thing, two coppers get out the car and come towards us and go, where you going, lads? I'm like, lad, I look like this, basically. I look at I still look similar to this, you know, sort of bearded and kind of like you know, nervous breakdown case kind of thing, gone wild, kind of look like. And he looks like a normal square lad who's next to me, like. But he's just made a telephone call, just so happens. And there's two policemen approaching us. Right, and guess what? He didn't have any weed on him. He just sold me weed. We didn't have any on him, just so happens. So they search him. And he's like that, like, yeah, go ahead. And they search him and they go, oh, go on then, you're alright. And he's like that, see you, like, and walks away. He just gets off to go to the shop. Then they start searching me, and I attempted to throw the weed, you know, like there was like a little sort of, like a grass, you know, like a lawn thing. Just as they approached me, I attempted to try and flip it out of my pocket behind me dead quick, so that it landed on the floor. And I was thinking, if they don't see it, you know what I mean, I'll come back for it in a minute, like, you know. But they must have known I had it on me, and they must have been, like, forewarned with the telephone call, because they saw it, or they sort of like, I don't even know how he saw it, because it was dark, you know what I mean, and I did this thing to sort of flicker on the floor. I didn't see where it landed, obviously. I just saw that it was in me, like, coat pocket, and I sort of like, and the both of them sort of went, hold on, did you just drop something there? Did you just throw something there? And I was like completely astonished, and still in my mind, right, at the moment it was going on, I didn't think the lad who had just bought it off, in a million years, guys, I wouldn't have even suspected he'd be so ridiculously stupid to give himself away being a snitch, basically. To do such a thing, do you get me? You'd think no one would be that stupid and obvious, would they? Using the phone and everything and getting off. He got searched, but he didn't even have anything on him, like, and he was a bloody dealer. Right, so anyway, they pick my little block up off the floor and they go, oh, look at this. And they do the little, you know, the pair of them. And basically, at that point, I was just thinking, I remember, in 1 minute I'm thinking, oh, I just can't wait to get to my bedroom, just chill out and watch the telly, you know. Next thing, I've got two coppers doing the, as if I was like Al Capone or something, like. And then I was like, I wanted to punch the heads in, you know what I mean? I was really almost about to crack up with them, like. And they put handcuffs on me. Sat me in the back of the police car and took me to the police station. Straight away arrested. And on the way to the police station, I was kicking off on them, man. I was saying all kinds of things to them, right, guys. They were just talking to each other, trying to drive the car, and sort of talking to each other. I'm sitting there really pissed off, right, guys, because 1 minute I thought I was just about to get stoned, and the next thing I'm on my way to the police station. To the cop shop. And while we were on the way to the police station in the car, because I was fuming in my head, thinking, like, I'm not even going to get stoned and now I've just been arrested, I started saying things to them like, if you imagine me sitting in the back seat of the car like that, like, they're trying to talk to each other as pals, and I'm going, oh, but you're proud of yourselves, eh, lads? Whoa, you get a promotion for this, won't you, eh? Whoa, £15. Whoa, it's a huge haul, that, innit, mate? You know, you'll be on the news. I was offloading all this sarcastic, facetious comments towards them, as if to say, whoa, you're going to be bloody heroes now, aren't you? You'll be like, you know, Cop of the Year award for this, innit, mate? You'll be Chief Superintendent promotion for this, £15 worth of weed. Oh, aren't you? It's fucking great, man. Sorry about my language, guys, but that's the way I was talking to them, yeah. And the coppers were looking at me going, listen lad, if you don't shut your mouth, we'll take you back to your flat and we'll search your flat wherever you live for anything else. We'll do you with intent to supply. That was £15 worth of weed, folks, you know. And I sort of, you know, because in my flat, obviously I had me pipes and me regalia and me paraphernalia, obviously, nothing shady, you know what I mean, nothing to hide. And another thing I had this ancient sword, you know, like a sort of a sword I'd bought in an antique shop, which was classed as a lethal weapon, basically. But it was just an ornament. You know, in my flat, it was an ornament. I wouldn't use it for anything violent, obviously. But I immediately thought of all the things in my flat that they might seize, you know, that they might take off me, like me sword, me favourite pipe, you know, me favourite bongo, man, they might take that, like. I didn't have any drugs back at me flat, obviously, that's why I was out buying £15 worth of weed off this dude, grass knock snitch fella, 666 code name, nod nod wink wink. Don't listen to this, don't buy weed off him. So he goes, we'll go back to your flat, mate, if you don't shut up. We'll go back to your flat and search that, and we find anything else that might interest us, we'll do you with intent. You know, with intent to sell, like, with intent to supply. And it'll be even worse for you, alright? So I just clammed up immediately. But yeah, I'm being a bit stupid here, aren't I? Over 15 quid. And then they took me to the police station, right? And as it happened, I hadn't been in trouble for so many years. It'd been such a long time since the last bank robbery that I'm just being sarcastic there. Like, they could only caution me, right? Obviously, they could only caution me, but they took me weed off me, you know what I mean? I just wasted £15, basically, you know. And they would tease me with it in the interview room, holding it up, going, we're going to smoke this when you've gone now. You know, winding me up and stuff like that. I was like, oh, man. But I ended up joking with them and being friendly instead of getting violent and volatile. I could have made it much worse, because I was really moody. I could have really flipped out. And they could have piled all kinds of things on and then made it much worse, couldn't they? But you learn, it's best to just be peaceful, not be bothered. Not be violent. And it ended up, by the time I left the police station, right, folks, by the time I was released from the cell, and I had to go home with no weed, I was talking to them kind of happy and not having a go at them, or, because I'm quite a peaceful guy, yeah. My captors didn't, anger me enough for me to turn it into a violent circumstance, let's put it this way. And they ended up being quite sound and quite friendly and jokey as well. But I even, when I left the police station, I even, the next day, I even went back to that lad, or a couple of days later, I went back to the same lad and bought more weed off him, not even thinking in my head it was him that phoned them, like. And he couldn't, if I walked out again and it had happened again, I would have definitely, the bell would have rang, wouldn't it? But I didn't even think. It was only much later on that I realised he must have blew me up there, right? But the coppers must have received the phone call, mustn't they? They must have known him. He must have had a system with the police that if, he could report someone to them or hand someone in on the sly, give them a nod, wink or whatever, like a nod and a wink. That person get busted and maybe fined, because it's all about gathering money for fines, really. That's the main thing they want off us. As many people get nicked, the money goes in the piggy bank, doesn't it? Whatever fine, if they get £200 fine or whatever, like court costs or whatever. Because you get a caution, it's not even worth the while, is it? It's a waste of their time, like. So, I know that was bent. I wouldn't say the coppers were bent, but the guy himself was a dealer that was asked by the police to keep an eye out. You know, like say you report this person, report that. Say we need help nicking this person or that person. He must have a deal, mustn't he? All the deals must have a thing just straightening that like so. Looks dead strange. So that's evidence there that I know that guy. Anyone watching this video, you tell me in the comment section, right? What do you think, guys? Do you think the guy who sold me the weed was in with the police and the police knew him well, and they just all they needed was a phone call and a couple of words, and they were outside the door waiting for me? Or was it just chance? Was I just imagining that later on? It was just chance. So that's one example. But I didn't go mad at them cops there. I didn't actually have a go at them, you know what I mean? I just thought, like, because they were threatening to ransack me flat, like, I thought, oh man, it's not worth it over £15, is it? You know, so that was a kind of like, it ended quite peacefully. I didn't give them any grief. I didn't go any further. That's how it started. I was taking the piss out of them big time. I was like, oh man, you get a Victoria Cross for this, won't you, lads? Oh, you're going to be like, oh, you might get chief superintendent, might you? You might get promoted, didn't you? I was piling it on big time because I was just thinking, I won't get stoned. And it ended up we were laughing in the police station and eventually, you know, because of the, you know, because I don't give a shit, basically. I didn't really care, but I was a bit miffed about who's blown me up, like, you know, who could have told them about that, like, not realising, like. Right, so that's an example, right, where I'd say the dealer was bent, you know, he was bent and he was in with the police, and the police were obviously aware of him and he was familiar with them and everything, and he'd say, oh, I'll tip you off here and that, like. We're going to another incident now, right? Now, this is bearing in mind, right, that in the Freemasonic temples, they've got a King James Bible, which, you know, the spirit, the real God, is meant to be ordering us to be honest. And if you're a law person or a judge or whatever, be fair and be true. And, you know, you don't bang people up for nothing, or you don't twist the law, or, you know, what we call plants, you know, where the coppers sometimes put the drugs in your pocket. Now, that's happened so many times, right, folks? If anyone's had it done to them, like, you know, if anyone ever watches this video out there in America or whatever, or where they've had, like, things planted on them and then they're suddenly being roped in, like, and they didn't even have anything on them in the first place. They do exist, man, you know what I mean? Ben coppers exist. And they've got the Freemasonic Bible in the temple, right? The King James Bible. And they're supposed to be showing an example, aren't they? And the Queen says on the news, she doesn't say Beelzebub or Lucifer, does she, when she talks, when she says things? She says God, doesn't she? She actually uses the word God, or she tries to talk as though it's like a holy entity, what they're referring to. And this includes all their Ben coppers and everything. Now, when you dial for the police in this country, you dial 666, but it's upside down. Do you get me? It's twisted upside down, because something good twisted upside down is evil. Something evil twisted upside down, you know, is good, if you know what I mean. They've twisted it upside down to make it appear good. The police are supposed to be pillars of society and protectors and guardians. Really goody two-shoes heroes, and they tell the truth, nothing but the truth. But with the number 666, well, 999, upside down, you know, the Bribe of Solomon, and the nickname for the Vicar of God in the Vatican, who is, at the moment, his name is Francis. Once upon a time, his name was Pontius Pilate. Once upon a time, his name was Nero. Once upon a time, his name was Caligula. You know, it's the same character. It always has been. And the Black Pope is the actual, you know, the serious, invisible element to it, isn't it? You know, they have the star, the guy on the telly who does all the walking around and talking to people in the Pope mobile and everything. They have to have the sort of, you know, the public face. And then there's the Black Pope secretly in the background. And with bearing in mind that they follow all these golden rules of saying you must tell the truth, And when you go in a law court, what do they say? They put your hand on a Bible and go, I swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. Now, I know coppers are bent and they'll do that themselves. Some of them anyway, okay? I'm not saying all of them, obviously. I know. Man, what would the world be like if we couldn't rely on good cops, man? It'd be like ridiculous, wouldn't it? Which brings me to an incident, the two incidents I was talking about on a previous video, where I actually know, I can't really prove that those coppers lied to me there. I can't prove that that guy knew them cops and them cops knew that guy, because that was just a scenario that was arranged for me not to notice, wasn't it? It was, you know, I was staged, set up basically to walk right in the path and be searched. And he knew I had it on me. They must have been known that he's not going to let us down. He's going to tell us when he's there, like. Over £15, I can't believe it, like, taxpayers' money. You know, police time, taxpayers' money, paperwork, over £15. But when I was even younger, right, because I'm not perfect, right, folks, all my faith and belief and everything all came to me after. I wasn't a kid that read the Bible and go to church and all those things. It wasn't like that. I was an adult. I was 30, or roughly 30 when I started getting into those things, because I'd had a breakdown. I had nothing to do with me. I wasn't a theologian or nothing, like. It's a personal matter, yeah. But anyway, when I was young, I was a bit of a scallywag. And we did crazy things, just like all the other kids, you know. And we lived in an area where everyone was being influenced to do things, you know, sniff glue and stuff like that. You know, you'd always had a mate, or smoke a cigarette, or there was always someone goading you, telling you what to do and that, like, take these pills and, you know, those kinds of things. But there was two incidents in my life, right, where I know the police lied to me, right. Now, that changes everything, doesn't it? When you actually know they're lying to you, that changes everything. It's not just a man. I could be just guessing that guy was with him. That phone call might have been legitimate. You know what I mean? He might have been phoning a guy with a guitar. I never got that guitar, by the way. He never got back to me with it, like. So that tells you something, doesn't it? There was no guitar, by the way. So that kind of adds up at the end as well, doesn't it? Right, if he knocked on the door with this guitar, I would have thought, wow, he was being telling the truth, man. But he didn't ever show up with the guitar. Right, so it takes me back a little bit further on, right? Proof that the coppers lie. I don't know if I've actually spoke about this before on YouTube. I don't know. I'm getting like a sort of deja vu, like. But they say they are not supposed. We can't rely on them to be biblically true and all that. Like, I mean, we all know that there's a twist to Solomon. He sold out and then he came back again for Ecclesiastes, didn't he? So we do know he sold out. Right, we've got to acknowledge that, right? God actually stripped him, if you know what I mean. 666 and all that, like 999. I mean, Solomon probably invented the police. I don't know. I wouldn't know. Because it is Freemasonry, isn't it? The whole thing of Freemasonry is all built on Solomon's wisdom, right? Now, I'm 100% sure, maybe 90% sure, that most people in the police are members of the fraternity. It's just part of the environment. It's because the way they work, isn't it? They have to deal with things that are confidential, you know, dead bodies, things behind the scenes and stuff that we don't want to know about, right? So they have to have a kind of a veil, haven't they? I understand that. I've always understand that, the veil of, like, or, you know, surgeons in operations, or all those people that do things that we're not going to see in everyday life. It's all under the veil, isn't it, right? That's the kind of, so that's what the fraternity is, a kind of secret society to cover those things, but it protects evil people as well, you see. Now, most cops are Freemasons, right? They've got Elizabeth Regina on the badges. So we know that the Queen, when she sits down on Christmas Day, even, like, you know, which is a celebration of the birth of Jesus, like, she's sitting there going, and I hope that God does this and that for my people. And, you know, and I think, what God are you talking about, love? You know, I'm not... I'm a bit like mystified when it gets to that point. But they shouldn't lie. Policemen shouldn't lie, should they? They just shouldn't do it. Everything should be as honest. They should be programmed to be honest and everything like. And if they're right, they'll always win the cases, won't they? If the criminal's wrong, they're going to win anyway. But when you're being set up or something's being done where they're trying to stitch up an innocent person, right, folks, that's when I see the cracks and the flaws in their, obviously their version of the Bible. Because it's like, hang on, if someone's innocent, you shouldn't be arresting them or getting them done, should you? And, you know, I was carrying weed when I got done that time, but there was a deal between a dealer and a cop doing a deal to get me done, to catch me, right, and put me in a cell for a while. Like I was sitting in a cell locked up for a while over a little block of stuff, of vegetable matter. That's what the coppers called it, man, when they sarcastically would go, and we caught this man walking out the block and he was carrying this vegetable matter. You know, that's what the words they used, because they make you feel silly. You know what I mean? Obviously, I mean, I do feel silly in those sort of realms, because I'm quite a mature guy, yeah, but I know a lot of people that get stoned, you see, and I'm surrounded by it, you know what I mean? So it's a bit difficult. But anyway, years earlier, one of my friends, he's probably watching... He'll probably watch this video later. One of my mates from years ago, you know, one of my busy mates from years ago, we used to hang around together. We were naughty, and you know, I don't mean evil guys. I mean, we were naughty, just like other people, naughty things, you know. You know, we'd throw eggs at buses and things like that, or rob bottles of milk off doorsteps, and talk about all the things we've done when we were naughty, like. But one particular, I don't know, I was hanging around. If he's watching this video, if he watches it later and he wants to post a message, if he remembers this, like, we used to hang around Birkenhead Docks, right? I'd say odd ages. He was a few years younger than me, but, you know, we ended up in a band together or whatever anyway, right? We've known each other for years, but back then we were only kids, basically. I was older than him, right? But we were hanging around Birkenhead Docks, right? And you know, it was like it was like an adventure playground, Birkenhead Docks, when we were younger. There was like, you know, ships and boats, well, you know, like fishing boats and things like that, all on kind of like dry dock kind of thing, or on platforms out of the water, and we could climb on them and get inside them, and it was like an adventure playground, Birkenhead Docks, and we were sprogs, like. And me and this lad, one of my mates, you know, I was roughly about 16, 17, I don't know, maybe 15, not sure. And we were hanging around together in the docks, like, you know, just the way we did, sort of looking for things, you know, climbing on boats and stuff. And back then we had this obsession of, we wanted to build a go-kart. You know, when you're a kid and you go, well, let's make a go-kart, and you look for bits and pieces and wheels and frames and things like that, right? You know, when you make a go-kart and you go down steep hills and that, like the what they call soap car races, you know, the box car races, like that kind of thing. Me and my mate wanted to build a soap car, what they call a soap box car, you know. And we were hanging around the docks and that, like, looking for bits and pieces and that, like. And we noticed this place was on fire. It was like there used to be like these little huts in the docks, what the dockers must have used to use. You know, they look like little houses, but they're, you know, red brick kind of structures, but they're like little tiny things with windows. They look like little houses. And we noticed one of them, someone had started a fire. It wasn't us, right, guys? It was, you know, hands, you know, hands in the air, like, you know what I mean? We didn't like this fire, right? But there was smoke coming through the roof of this thing. And we were just going, oh, wow, look, someone's lit a fire there, you know what I mean? And we just walked past that. We weren't interested in like that. And then we saw this pram, you know, like a broken pram. It would have 4 intact wheels on it, like, you know, like what someone, you know, the frame of a pram without the bit where the kids can sit in, you know, that was missing. It was just this metal frame with wheels, yeah. And that was what we took, you know, we just seen that dumped There was no we didn't steal anything or break into anywhere or nothing like that, right, guys? We were just hanging around the docks like a lot of kids used to do back then. And we picked up this pram and it was wheeling and everything. We're going, wow, we can make a go-kart out of these wheels, can't we, right? He'll remember if I'm, you know, if he watches later and he sees this video, he'll probably put a message underneath, you know, that he remembers that day. His memory's not that good compared to mine, apparently, because when I speak to him about things, he goes, I don't remember this, I don't remember that. I was like, wow, man. So it's always interesting to hear what he has to say, you know, if he remembers these things, like. But it's like I say, it's an example that the police are liars, right? I'm telling the truth about. I'm not just having a go at them, you know what I mean? It's proof that the Freemasonic Bible is corrupt, you know what I mean? Or that otherwise they wouldn't do it. But we take this pram thing, right? And we're starting, and it was getting late, and it was time to go back home. You know, it was becoming like evening time, and we thought, yeah, let's get back to ours and let's start taking the wheels off this pram and that, like we can use it, like. So we're wheeling this pram across what was called the Four Bridges. It's just like 4 bridges it links from, you know, it goes through the docks from Birkenhead and it takes you to Wallasey, right? And on the way over them 4 bridges, back towards Birkenhead. Oh! Shit, they've seen me videos, they've intervened. They're coming to get me. Well, anyway, on the way to over the 4 bridges towards Birkenhead, they actually had their own police station years ago, right, folks? There was an actual police station in the docks that used to be there. This little blue police station, like sky blue building, like that, where, you know. But we were just before the police station. We were walking like back home with this pram. We were made up of this pram, right? And bear in mind, we'd just seen like smoke coming through this roof, where some other kids had started a fire, arsonists had started a fire, right? Hand on heart, guys, you know what I mean? It wasn't nothing to do with me and him. We didn't do anything to do with lighting this fire, right? So we're walking back with the pram, made up with this pram to make some, you know, wheels for the trolley. Next thing, the panda car pulls up right next to us, you know, the panda car. The old panda cars. Pulls up next to us and says, where are you going with that, lads? What's that like? It was like, it's just a pram we found with, you know. This is the crime we committed. The criminals, the pair of us, like, criminals. They go, where are you going with that, lads? Where have you been? It was like, well, we've just been walking around the docks and we found this. You know, we were talking through the car window of the you know, the police car, like, and we were right by the police station. We were right by where they drove out to investigate the fire. Someone had reported the smoke. Do you know what I mean? So they alerted the fire engines or whatever, and that was going there to sort out. It was only a small blaze. It wasn't like I say, it was nothing to do with me and my friend, right? And they said, so what have you got there then? You know, and they were still talking to us through the car window. And I said, it's a pram, and you know, we found it. Honestly, we just found it, and we're going to use it to make a go-kart. You know, we told them that we actually told them exactly what we were doing, what the truth was. And he goes like, do you know there's a fire just been lit back there? And we were like, well, yeah, we actually seen that. We seen something was on fire, but it's nothing to do with us. We just left the place, you know. We just took the pram and we're coming, you know, it was on near the Seacombe side, you know, where the fire was. And he goes, so it wasn't anything to do with you, lads? I was like, nah. So you're prepared to, like, you know, you want to come into the station and talk about it then? So obviously, because we didn't have anything to worry about, we went, yeah, all right. Okay. And they pull their car up. They go, well, don't try and run away, you know what I mean? Don't try and escape. Get a helicopter, guys. Keep an eye on these two. They've got a pram. So we say, is it okay if we search you? And, you know, see if you've got any matches on you or anything like that. I say, yeah, man. All right. So they pull their car up in, and it was like a garage right next to the police station. They parked their car into the garage. Then they got out the car and they come over to us and they say, put your pram thing there next to it, because we don't know if that was yours or not, so we might have to hang on to that for evidence. So we pushed this stupid little pram frame into this like garage next to the police station, and they took us into the police station. Right, first thing they do is, "Okay, we search you." I said, "Yeah, man." So they search my pockets, they search his pockets, they nothing on us, like key rings or whatever. We got our keys or whatever in our pockets, and some coins and whatever, like. And then they take us into this like interrogation room, and there was two of them. One copper took me mate into another room, and the other copper stayed with me in this interrogation room. So he was in one interrogation room, and I was in the other interrogation room, right? And this copper's talking to me, asking me everything. And all I'm doing I'm just sitting there answering every question as honestly as I can, you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, man, yeah. Trying to make so it all ties up in his head, like, you know, the timelines or whatever, whenever the fire might have been lit, because it was already lit when we were there, you see. So I'm just telling him everything to try and explain, like, no, and we didn't see whoever lit the fire neither. We didn't actually know who did it ourselves. Do you get me? Like, we ain't covering for no one or anything like that. So I'm just sitting there thinking, I've got nothing to worry about here, man. Talk to the police, tell them everything, like, you know. And then like, I ended up, got to the climax of my interview, and I'm going, so, you know, we just picked up this pram and we're just going home to make a go-kart, man. You know, that's all we're doing, like. Right, next thing, the door opens. And the other copper walks in. You know, the one who's interviewing me is kind of like going, okay, sounds fair. You know, sounds like you're telling the truth and that, like. So, you know, I'm telling the truth. You know what I mean? Next thing, this copper walks in. He closes the door. He stands at and he's got this weird look on his face going, as if to say to the other copper, like, wait a second, don't let him go. And he goes, hey, well, he just spilled the beans. Your mate's just told us everything. He goes, your mate's just told us everything. You know, you did light the fire, and you know, and you're using this pram thing as a cover, like, you know, you found that, like, but you's lit that fire, because he's just admitted it. He just told me everything. And bear in mind, my mate was younger than me. I was thinking, has he manipulated them into admitting to a crime that we haven't committed, or he hasn't committed? No, I obviously knew he was telling lies, because I actually knew we didn't light the fire, you know what I mean? I just sat there looking at this copper, like, with this big grin on his face, going, we've got all the evidence we need, man, you know? So I want you to admit to it now. You lit that fire, didn't you? I was looking at him going, you're not bad. No. And he's like, well, your mate just admitted that. I was like, look, mate, I'll tell you this for now. How can he admit to something when I know we didn't do it, like? I said, I know he hasn't admitted to it, like, because he didn't do it. We haven't done it, like. We haven't actually lit any fires. But he actually tried, under Freemasonic, like, King James Bible, their version of the King James Bible. He actually lied to me, telling me that me mate had blown the gaff and spilled the beans, that we were both lit a fire and we were about to escape. Right. And I just sat there looking at it to say, yeah, oh man, you know, trying not to laugh, basically, thinking, I can't believe this, we haven't even lit the fire, you know. You actually know you didn't light the fire, you know what I mean? So I sat there, I was like, look, mate, we didn't light the fire, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are you doing, like, telling lies? You're telling lies, and it's the first time I'd actually seen a copper actually lying through his teeth, do you understand? Actually, physically, not like rumours of it or whatever. He was a policeman, all fully clothed in the uniform and everything, like. And so I knew he was lying, like. And then he goes, then he disappears into the other room, And then blah, blah, blah. And then he brings me mate into the room and that, like, and they go, then the both of them look at each other and they go, all right, we've got to let you go. So we was like, can we take our pram, like? And they go, no, we're keeping that, because they thought that would have been, they thought that had been stolen, like, you know. So we walked out the police station, like, and obviously the first thing I said to my mate was like, what did you say to him? And he goes, like, I didn't say nothing, to be honest, like, I just told him the truth and that. Like, he said he came in, like, asking me. And I don't know if the cop who was talking to me did the same thing and went into his room and did the same thing. I don't know, like, but all I know is they tried to extract a confession, even though we hadn't done it. Like, I mean, what kind of person would confess to doing something even if they hadn't done it? Like, you know, especially lighting a fire, you know what I mean? Wouldn't, like, what was he hoping to achieve? But the point is, he did lie, didn't he? He lied. And he's under oath, basically. Not like in a court. He's under oath in his job, in his uniform, under the Freemasonic Bible. He's under oath not to do that kind of thing, but he did. Right. So why does, like, Her Majesty's Constabulary and those kinds of organisations employ people who are bent? You know what I mean? There's got to be honest cops out there, obviously, but why would you employ them if they're bent? You know, they tell lies, right? Now, that's incident number one, right? Remember, this has got nothing to do with the guy blowing me up with weed. He's a bent dealer, isn't he? Well, I suppose all dealers are bent, aren't they? But he's a bent dealer, and the coppers are well in with him, like. Right? This is proof they've got their own network. They've actually got their own network so that, like, if they don't like you, they can have you arrested. But the second time, right? The same lad, if you're watching, I won't name any names, but you're probably watching this video, you'll remember these incidents. Now, no disrespect to either of us. It's not like we're evil or bad, like, but it's kind of naughty what we were getting up to at the time, like, but we weren't doing things intentionally and trying to, like, influence people, but, other people will probably argue we were being bad and naughty, even in this case, like, but it's not really bad. But all I'm trying to prove is the way how seriously the coppers are prepared to lie, right? Me and my mate, he'll remember, years ago, we were about, I don't know, I was a bit older than him, obviously. What year was this? Was I still in school? I'm not sure if I was still in school. 16 anyway, roughly. Oh. Well, 16 anyway, right? And me mate, through one of his relatives, had access. You know when you find, prescription drugs in your mum's bedroom or your dad's bedroom or whatever, you know what I mean? And you take them out into the street and, you're not doing anything sinister. You're not a dealer, you're not anything like that. But you know the way it is when we were kids. If you could get a tablet or a downer or, they were called Ataman tablets, right, guys? They're banned now, you know what I mean? These tablets are banned, like, but they were infamous, like, downers, what we call downers, like Valiums, really, like the Valium of the day. And you could take one of these tablets, mate, and you just turn into a zombie. You'd just be walking around, like, foaming at the mouth. It was like, in your sleep, basically, And all the kids got wind to it where we lived. We kind of, like, I knew other people that did them and all that, like, We did it a couple of times, but, we had bad experiences. Like, we actually got jumped on them. We actually got battered by a gang one night. That's another story. Like, a pair of us got actually beat up by a gang on them, like, Bit of an adventure, like, Me murdered. I was literally murdered in the street that night, like. But anyway, before all that, my mate manages to get this little, the plastic container, the equivalent of this thing. These aren't drugs, by the way. See that, like, these are echinaceas, by the way. You can read it like echinacea. See the echinaceas from the Asda. Shh. But those packets like that. If you imagine one of them and it was just full of Ataman tablets, right? My mate managed to sort of like, he found it like, you know, his dad or whatever had, you know, put it in the wrong place or something, and he managed to sort of steal it without his dad noticing, basically, right? Not exactly like a serious crime, folks. He was a kid, remember, he was younger than me. He was, oh man, we must have been 15 and 11 maybe, I'm not sure, right, at the time. Right? But he got one of these things like that, you know, and it was like these little tablets and Atamans, right? And because we tried one each at some point, you know, we were like, oh my word, we were off our heads and that, like. Then word got round with the other kids who were his age, not my age group, right? My mate's age group, his pals from his year in school and stuff like that. Younger than me, I was older, right? This is why the coppers tried to arrest me or tried to pin it on me, because I was old enough to be arrested for it, right? And what transpired was, all the kids in the streets, all the kids we knew, hounded me mate, because they knew he had one of these full of Atamans. Hounded him, followed, wherever we went, they followed us, and they were like, come on man, give us some, come on, give us some of them tablets, we know you've got them, come on, give us some, you know, because they saw us walking round off our heads one night, you know what I mean? We were laughing our heads off or whatever, or acting silly on them, like. And they hounded me, you know, the lad who was, I give him his due, he wasn't trying to sell them, he wasn't, you know, trying to peddle them, as they say, he wasn't dealing and anything like that. We were just mischievous kids with prescription drugs, right? And I seen it for myself, wherever we went, they followed him. And they were going, come on man, give us some, come on, we'd give them to you if we had them, wouldn't we, like? And he ended up, he had to give them to him, like, or that was it, they offered them £1 or something, you know what I mean? It wasn't like a proper deal or anything, you know, they were only kids. They were kids and I was a little bit older, right? So it ended up, I mean, he'll confirm this himself, my mate will confirm this himself, I'm not making this up or anything like that, right? If, you know, if he wants to put it in the comments section, like if he remembers, right? So he wasn't doing anything shady, and neither was I, but these kids his age were just literally hell-bent on, they wouldn't leave him alone unless he gave them some. So what he did was, he said, well, we'll meet, you know, there was like a roof we all used to climb on if we had anything shady to do, you know, like sort of swapsies or whatever, like, or, you know, selling stolen goods, or anything like that. Not that we stole anything. So we said, we'll meet on the roof. He went, meet us on the roof. And I'll get them for you then, alright. Because obviously he couldn't carry them round in his pocket, right? And we all met on this roof. Right, and this is, I'm telling you how I told my solicitor when I eventually got arrested for it, like. You know, I did get legal aid. I actually got a solicitor to defend me for it, like, because I knew I was actually innocent, you see. But this was the way it went. I'm sitting on the roof in between, me mate is on one side and the lad who wants the tablets on the other, and there's a kind of like ledge, or, you know, it was kind of, so we're sitting, I'm in the middle, if you know what I mean. Me mate passes the packets to me, I pass them to the other lad. He gives the money to me and I pass them to him, and I was just in the middle of the swap. Do you understand? I had no say whatsoever in whatever went down, you know what I mean? They were kids just, you know, being mischievous with tablets. Right? Then, a bit later that night, all hell broke loose because these kids took the tablets and were going round like zombies. And the parents went mad or whatever, and, you know, the way them tablets worked, right, they were so downy. They were prescribed to people who were supposed to have had nervous problems or stress or whatever, like, but they were really strong downers, right? So they made you act like a zombie. And then the next day, you'd be okay, you know what I mean? You'd be alright, like, you'd have a little bit of a headache or whatever, like, you know. Like I said, I tried to by chance, like, I had a bad experience, obviously, I nearly got murdered on them, like, but, you know, that's not the point. But the next day you'd be okay, and that'll be it, like, you know, just like most, like Valiums or something like that, right? But anyway, these kids, I think it was two of them or three of them, sort of acted strange in front of the parents, you see, and the folks noticed, and they phoned the police, right? Immediately getting me and me mate into trouble, really, you know. So, you know, I don't know whether that was a stitch up. I doubt it. I think it was genuinely just, you know, chance this time. But the problem was, right, because my mate was too young, you know, I think you've got to be, you've got to be 12 or 13 or something at the time to be arrested for that kind of thing. They knew it was him. He hadn't, you know, they actually, you know, the kids who got them must have said it to the police. Oh, my mate give me them, like, you know. So they knew it was him, right? But they knocked on my door that evening. The police knocked on my door that evening, came into the living room, two coppers, two, you know, uniformed policemen, like, said, you're under arrest. Oh no, they didn't actually arrest me, that was it. They just said, you know, he's too young. We can't talk to your mate because he's too young, but we can talk to you. Because you're like, I think it was 14, 15, I can't remember the exact age, but I was old enough to be arrested, right? So they pinned it on me immediately, right? And I was just there, I just stuck to my guns, and I sat there going, look, I'm not saying nothing, mate. I'm not saying nothing. You know, until, like, you know, if you're going to arrest me, like, but, you know, get your warrant or whatever, like, and then we'll follow it from there, innit? And I'll tell you what I know, like, you know, and that's it, like. And they left the house, and then nothing more was said that night, like. And then a couple of days later, right, in the middle of the daytime, it was in the afternoon, knock on my door, and obviously we had a talk about it. The lads who took the tablets were already over it, didn't give a shit. My mate was not bothered. None of us were bothered about it. We were just like, that's what the lads used to be like when we, you know, where we hung around. Everyone was just kind of off. They were crazy kids round by us, you know what I mean? We were all off our heads, you know what I mean? I don't mean mad on drugs, we were just mad, if that makes any sense. So we all had an agreement, we all spoke to each other, and like, the lads who had all got us into trouble because they were all walking around like lunatics, whatever they were doing, I don't know. We weren't there, you see, you know, we don't know what happened. Like, one of them went to hospital because he threw up. That was it, like, you know, his mum it was his mum that phoned the police or whatever because he threw up or whatever, like, anyway. But anyway, the police didn't, like, you know, I didn't hear nothing from them. But I got, a couple of days later, knock on the door, and it's the same two police officers. And my dad was with me, my old man, you know, my dad, he was like in the kitchen. And the door, I opened the door, and there's two coppers standing there in the door. He's like, what's going on? And he goes, we need your son, Mr. Williams, to come to the police station tomorrow. Just to clean up some facts and that, like, and then it'll be sorted. Because they couldn't pin anything on me mate, because he was too young, basically, so they were after me, weren't they? But they said to me and my dad was standing next to me, like, we only need them to say we're asking them a few questions. There's nothing like, you know, we're not arresting them or anything, like, you know, because I honestly hadn't done nothing. Yeah, granted, I was standing there while things were going on, I was sitting there while they were doing the, you know, but it was just the way the kids were, you know, you just leave them to it, or right, because they wouldn't have listened anyway, you try and stop them, like. But the cop said to me, we just want you to come to the police station tomorrow, and we just want to ask you a few questions, and you can come with them. They said to me, Dad, you can come with them, you know what I mean, to make sure there's nothing shady going on, like. And then that's it, and my dad said to me, and you're not trying to arrest them or nothing, like. And the coppers went, no, Mr. Williams, we're not trying to arrest them. But, like, remember, coppers on oath, or, you know, Freemasonic Bibles, bearing in mind all these matters. So, he said, bring him in at like 3:30 in the afternoon or whatever it was. So my dad was allowed to go with me, like. And next day, gets ready and all that, like. only thinking of just answering questions, aren't we, you know? Then we goes all the way to the police station. My dad comes with me, like. Sat down in the interview room, same two policemen. Soon as I sat down on the chair, right, the copper goes, "I'm arresting you, Mr. Williams, blah, blah, blah. Anything you say will be taken down." And while he was reading me my rights, my arm man was like, "Hang on, you just said you ain't going to arrest him." And he goes, "But we've got evidence, Mr. Williams. Now we've got evidence." So he told me dad to shut up, basically. He's like, you've got no right to say anything at the moment. Just, you know what I mean? Deadly serious, man. And then he reads me my rights. And on the you know, the charges of supplying these tablets to kids intentionally and all that, like. I'm like, wow. I did stand by watching it being done, but I didn't actually partake in the actual. But the kids actually wanted them, you know. It was not to do with me, like. I was there, like. But anyway, I sat there thinking, oh man, you shady bastards. So they arrested me. Then they took me into the, you know, to fill all my details in, like, you know, your name and all that, like, on the pieces of paper, and fingerprints and all that kind of business, if they hadn't took them already, like. And we sat down, and I just thought to myself, I'll just stick to my guns and not, you know, not say anything, like. Now, they had interviewed me mate earlier on that day. Right, my mates had been in there. They'd spoke to him before me. Right, and I don't know what transpired or what they'd said to each other. Do you get another way they arrange it? So the time, and like the fire incident, do you understand? Separate rooms kind of thing. And we stand up and go into where the charge sheet and all that business is being done. And there's a chief superintendent guy standing behind the counter, like. And it's a sort of famous incident, like, because my arm flipped out with the policeman. He goes, "What are you cowboys up to, mate?" That's what he said to the. You know, he looks at the superintendent fella and he says, "What are you cowboys playing at? You told him you ain't going to arrest them, like." And he bollocks me that. He's like, "I assure you, we are not cowboys." So dead serious, proper, like, heavy duty, like. I was going, it's just a figure of speech, you know. But they were genuinely lying, right? Because they said, as it got worse, you know, as I've just been realised I'm being arrested and then I'm going to be going to court, you know what I mean? They look at me and they go, "Well, anyway, your mate told us everything." You know, exactly the same thing again, man. Your mate has told us everything, you know, Bruce. I'm like, and in my head is my mate sitting there going, like, you know, in your imagination, like, I could see my mate sitting there going, "I don't want to get done for him in trouble, like. So if I say Bruce got them and it was all his doing and all that, like, you know, who's gonna know kind of thing, you get me? Like, that's what your imagination sees, isn't it?" And I couldn't believe it, man. I felt like, you know, I was like screaming, going mad when he said, "Your mate told us everything." And, you know, the lads who took the pills, the kids who'd gone mad, they blew me up as well, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my word, they wouldn't do that. I know that, like, but the way they put it to me, it sounded convincing. So they arrested me, charged me, and said I would set a date for court, and had told me that I might as well admit everything they said. He said, "Come on." While we were in the police station, they wanted me to confess there and then, right? And I sat there going, "Look, man, I'm telling you the truth. I haven't done nothing wrong. I hadn't sold them everything, all the details. I saved that for the solicitor, obviously, yeah. I hadn't said nothing at the point, like, I was just there, I was keeping stum, saying, I know I haven't done nothing here, man, you know, but I can't wait to see me mates when I get home, man, you know what I mean?" I was like, wow, I was fuming, do you understand? Because he said, all your mates have blown you up, they've all told us it was you and you wanted money off them and all that, like. So, we finish up and that, like, set a date for court, right? And I gets off, and the next day, my mate knocked on the door, first thing. And he knocks on my front door, and I open the door. And, you know, my attitude towards him was, I just thought he just told them I've done everything, like. So I opened the door. He goes, "Oh, hi, Bruce, what happened, like?" And I was like, "I'm not talking to you, like. I'm not telling you anything." No looking at him as if I didn't want him to be there. And he goes, "What? Why? What's up?" I was like, "Well, what's up? Don't you know?" He goes, "Nah. When you've blown me up, you've grasped me up, you told them I did everything." He goes, "I didn't do anything, I didn't say nothing." Because he couldn't arrest him, he was too young, do you know what I mean? He goes, "I didn't say anything, Bruce." I was like, and I was ready to get violent, or, you know, well, not talk to him anymore, if you know what I mean. You know, because back in them days, we all used to just kick off on each other if we kicked off, like, you know what I mean? So I was like, "Okay, are you sure about that, like?" And he's going, "Honest, man, I didn't say anything. I didn't say nothing, like. I didn't tell them you did it and all that, like." But the way the coppers told me, man, it was convincing, you know what I mean? And then I walked around the street and I found one of the other lads, and I grabbed hold of him by the collar. I was like, "You little bastard, you what are you doing?" Because they were hounding me, mate, for them tablets. It wasn't like me mate was pushing them or any of that business. It wasn't like that at all. You'd have to be there to see what I mean. They hounded him wherever he went. So I goes up to one of the other lads who I knew quite well, and we were okay with each other, but in my mind he's just blown me up, and grabs hold of him by the collar like, "I can't believe you fucking tell the police." Oh, sorry about my language, folks. So, "I can't believe you tell the police I did that, like, you know what I mean? You know, it wasn't actually like..." And he goes, "Bruce, what are you doing?" I didn't tell them nothing. I was like, "What?" Because we didn't tell him anything. All we did, like, you know, one of the other lads' mums just phoned the police and reported that, like, the kid was, you know, on tablets of some kind. That was the way it worked out. And then the police did the rest, you know what I mean? So I'm like, "Are you sure about that?" You know, I had to get him to sort of, like, assure me that, so "I wouldn't do that to you, man. I wouldn't, you know what it's like." So I was convinced both of them were telling me the truth. And I was like, "Oh, man, the coppers lie. I didn't think the coppers would lie." And then I went to see my solicitor, right? Well, you know, I got legal aid. And I sat down with the solicitor, and he told me to write a statement. That he said, "Before you do anything, Bruce, just write it all down on a piece of paper. Everything that's happened. As honestly as you can possibly can. And, you know," and he said, "Even if you feel guilty or you've done something wrong, put it on the paper and I might be able to help you. But just write down everything exactly as it happened and I might be able to help you anyway. But if you've got nothing to worry about, just write it down. Tell me what happened, like." So I wrote down everything in graphic detail, the exact circumstance, how it all occurred, like, how the kids were hounding him and everything. And then he read the thing where I wrote down, this guy, like, and he goes, "If you're telling the truth, Bruce, you got nothing to worry about." And he wasn't, like, trying to get me off. He was just basically saying, "Well, you haven't done nothing. Nothing to be arrested for or done for, you know. So if you're telling the truth, you know, you've got nothing to worry about." So I just thought, brilliant, okay. See them in court, isn't it? I went to court, right? I stuck to my guns. I didn't, like, you know, admit to anything or confess to anything. And the prosecution for the police stood up, this guy in a suit, like, you know, scruffy little... I recognised him from somewhere, and he was a person who I've met years later, and he was into drugs. I can't believe all the things I've seen is unbelievable, to be honest. I never forget her face. But this guy stands up in the law court, right? I thought I was going to be arrested. I thought he might have had some kind of evidence or some kind of hold over me, no matter what was said. You know what I mean? I was convinced he wouldn't have took me to court otherwise. But they were that desperate to get me, like, arrested and sort of named and shamed, if you know what I mean. So I sitting there in the law court. The guy stands up. He says, "At the very beginning of the case, the prosecution would like to request that the case be dismissed because of lack of evidence." Not a single shred of evidence against me, like. And the case was dismissed, and I walked out the court like thinking, wow. So there is, justice is fair if you're telling the truth and all that, like. But if I had to, like, I mean, why would I confess to something I didn't do? Do you know what I mean? Why would people confess to something they didn't do? But when the policeman lied to me, we're not talking about like total strangers here or dealers or whatever. We're talking about my friends. They were kids who were new, and they were prepared to. I could have gone around punching them or something. I could have lost my temper, like attacking them because I thought they'd grassed me up. The way they actually said it, right? So now. If the Queen's Bible, right, is legitimately honest, and that the Solomon elements or the 999 and all that, right, bearing in mind I've traced the plumb line between 999 and what's his face, the Solomon kind of element of things is policing, isn't it, really? And then the Nero thing, the 3 6s with the Nero thing. There's obviously this like void, this plumb line is where it's the police realm, isn't it? Obviously, the law, the Roman soldiers, whatever you want to call them, like. But I actually found out there firsthand. I've just, in detail, I've just spoke about, 3 incidents, really, of where the police and the dealers or whatever all they're in it together. If it means them bending the rules to get their own way. I don't know who the hell was after me or trying to get me arrested back in them days, but it was just ridiculous, like, Deface the Queen, obviously. I'd done that to the coin, so I was getting that, silly stuff, really, isn't it? You know what I mean? Well, I mean, there's actually an artist out there, right, guys, and he actually does it for a living. He's an artist, and what he does is he vandalises £20 notes. Have you ever seen him? And he makes the Queen look like a skull or a skeleton, and he does things. He's really good, like. He's a bit like the way Banksy rearranges images to make it look, like a poignancy. Now, I'm not actually, the Queen shouldn't be, like, taking this as, like, a personal attack. It's about the figurehead. It's about the principality. It's about the space that who is capable of using police and things like that to be, illegal. Like tell lies just to get evidence or to have someone arrested. It's off its head, isn't it? It's mad. Anyway, I've been talking for I don't even know how long this has been going, man. I've got no timer to. Been a while, like, hasn't it, guys? I've sort of stretched out because I know people like hearing me talk. I don't know why. Like, I think I'm a boring. I am actually going for the Guinness Book of Records as I want to be the most boring man on earth. I mean, intentionally. Like, I did try when I had me breakdown. There were times I did absolutely nothing for days on end in me madness, like. So I see myself as extremely boring, but some people actually like these speeches, oddly enough. But is that not evidence, right, folks, of, and I'm not making this up, I'm not inventing this, I'm not making this up just to get, like, to put a point across or anything. I'm actually telling the truth. Telling the truth. You're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox. In the show today, we've got Roller Coaster Ride. So anyway, I'll end the speech now. It's not much really, is it? But I think it's a good testimony. That it's bent. That it's bent. That the law is bent. Not all of it. We know this. My case got dismissed for starters. I know the law courts was fair in that sense. If the police could have pushed it, they would have done me, wouldn't they? Would have only been a silly little fine as well. You know what I mean? It wouldn't even have been worth going into, would it? Really? Bit daft, really, isn't it? Taxpayers' money. But there were a couple of Ativan incidents, you see. just little silly things where we were all immature and silly and that, like, I've known other people to take them things off us, like, just wanting it, like, and then it got us into trouble, you know what I mean, but it was nothing intentional. That's another story, I'd talk about that, like, but but in the case of this, right, once they were gone, they were gone. Do you know what I mean, man? Once they were gone, like. But in that case, the police actually lied to me, right? So I won't. How can the Queen be honest, man, or the organisation? How can the establishment be completely 100% honest? How can them badges to say Elizabeth Regina be completely 100% honest if they're prepared to make you even like fight with your own friends, thinking I wonder how many people fell for that, man. I wonder how many people have been told by the police that the mates told them everything, and then they've gone off on one, just smashing doors down, kicking people's heads in and effing, and then after it's all over, the mates are going, I didn't actually do anything or say anything, and they find out after a fight or a scrap. They can cause all kinds of trouble, can't they, with lies, like. Well, anyway, I just thought I'd let you. It was just a little mad story I thought I'd tell you. A couple of incidents, proof that they're not totally honest. And I've got some more speeches coming soon in the pipeline. Some more interested than this. But this is kind of like, I needed to get it off my chest. And I'm hoping my mate remembers that, you know what I mean? That, like, what these guys are prepared to do, man, to get us to attack each other, like. I'll be honest with you, right, folks. I've actually phoned the police once. Where you dial 999 and you ask for the services. I've phoned for ambulances. I've actually phoned for fire, what you call them, fire engines to sort if I've seen a blaze somewhere and no one else has seemed to have noticed. And I'll tell you the actual truth. I've dialed 999 once where I've actually asked for the police's help. And have a guess what it was? I've never actually ever turned anyone in or phoned the police. Even when I've been threatened with knives and things like that, I've been attacked with knives and all that kind of stuff, I haven't actually turned the person in. You know what I mean? I've actually let them off, basically, rather than see them in jail, And the only time I've actually phoned the police, legitimately, like, is when I was with my ex-girlfriend, when I used to live with someone, and we closed the front door and left the keys in the living room. When you close your front door, and you just after you close the door, you realise you didn't take your keys with you, like, and the other doors and windows are locked, and, door closes and you go, oh no, I left the keys in the living room, and we just went straight to a phone box, phone 999, and said, we've locked ourselves out, and we stood out, they said, okay, we'll come and help you, like, and we stood outside our front door, right, expecting these guys to arrive with skeleton keys and that, like, you expect them to, you see locksmiths, locksmiths, they go like that, like, with a little thing, like, and the door opens, you know what I mean? And we're standing there, and these two police dudes get out the car and go, is this the door? You've locked the door, have you? Yeah, like, and those little windows that look like a half of a sun, those little glass windows like that, like, he just gets a truncheon out and goes, puts his hand in and opens the door, goes, there you go, mate, it's alright. It's like, haven't you got a skeleton key? And you got, like, don't say, oh no, we only use them when we want to sneak around people's houses without them knowing. Smash the window with a truncheon, you know what I mean? That's the only time on record I've ever phoned the police. You can actually go and get satellite data or whatever you need from the telephone companies and everything if you want to confirm that, like. We don't go around blowing our own up. But when the police are in, when a Ben Copper's got anything to do with it, man. Alright, I think that's enough. There is a reoccurring theme in everything I'm saying in these speeches, right, folks? There's a lot of kind of, like, there is a common denominator. The main common denominator I keep getting to is, like, their God is not the real God. That's the main one I'm reaching, like. I'm sure some cops believe in God. I'm sure some like detectives and all that kind of stuff might be, you know, righteous and whatever. I don't know. It's very hard to say, isn't it, regarding the Masonic world? Like, sorry, Freemasonic. Remember, Masons of the Bible are legitimate. Freemasons are illegitimate, and Masons are actually the original builders, as they say. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with the word Masons. It's Freemasons. That's the Lucifer divide, isn't it? Or, you know, the separation, like, which became I don't know what to say anymore. Well, it's proof, you know, the police aren't honest. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up now. Hope you've been enthralled, or hang on, hey, you in the front, wake up. It's like loads of people all over the world like that. Oh, is he finished, are you, man? My next speech, right, folks, is going to be in a sort of similar vein of like how I think the law and all those organisations with like regarding like obelisks and you know what, I've already done speeches about it, like, you know, the Cleopatra's Needle type structures everywhere and things like that, how they can use them as portals, and just a little thing about the way they've got like a seedy world in all of that stays out of sight, like a interdimension, you know, what they call an interdimension, isn't it? So they can do naughty things. I think that's my next speech coming up. It was going to be something to do, what was it, man? Something to do with me targeted individual stories. Another example of when I could prove indefinitely someone targeted me, you know, they were actually, we must destroy Bruce, ruin his reputation. Oh, that was it, man. Another crazy incident where me and my friend, the lad in question, you know, me mate, like, who'll be watching this video probably, where we were both wrongly accused of being a pair of faggots, basically. It's an interesting story. I don't know if he remembers, but, you know, we were actually accused by the other lads in the area, but just because of the, no, I won't go into it now because I don't know how long I've just been talking there, an hour, 3 hours even, I don't know, I'm not sure. I don't even know if it's actually stopped. No, it hasn't stopped recording. But yeah, I've got a couple of little other speeches, and they're all related to the secret societies, like where they got their element of existence, and I've got mine. Little things, man, just little things where the law is bent. It's bent to suit themselves. Strange sexual hang-ups. There's you know what, there's an interesting documentary, before I get off, right, before I go, there's a very interesting documentary on YouTube somewhere about this legitimate policewoman, right? She was a police officer, a good one, you know, when what we call vocational, you know, when people are vocational guys, right, to become like vicars or nurses or doctors or policemen because they want to help people. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people do get that, don't they? Right. And it's like the difference between vocational and people who do it because they're bent, basically. And this woman is a policewoman. She's on YouTube. If you type in the description words to the effect of undercover policewoman secretly films her, you know, constabularies activities. She was a legitimate policewoman, but she had a secret camera on her, right? And she was filming everything they were doing and saying, and, you know, like there's one incident where she's sitting in a police car with them. They didn't know she was filming them, like, but she was exposing all the shady, chauvinistic rituals that the male policemen were all, you know, like, say, for example, we're not allowed to watch, legitimately, we're deemed as bad people if we watch pornography, right? Whether consciously or unconsciously we watch something that's naughty, yeah, right. But anyway, in that documentary, you know, all the guys have all got the smartphones, you know what I mean, with the videos, what they download or whatever, like. But this policeman, he doesn't know he's being filmed by the policewoman, like. He goes up to the policewoman, he's going, what do you think of that, eh? Hey, watch that, look at that. And it's, I don't know, you know, I'm not saying I'm into this kind of stuff, but it's still, you know, there's some certain things go around on the internet and people know, like the two, what's it called? 2 girls and a cup, or whatever it is, 2 women and a cup thing, you know, that. You know, the way there's like reputations and rumours about things that go around on the internet that people, you know, eventually get on their phones and that, like. And the guy, the policeman was showing the policewoman his phone, going, check that out, eh? Have a look at that, what do you think of that? And it was the one where there's like a woman being bloody, you know, literally like banged by a horse. Or she's doing she's doing disgusting things with a horse anyway. And the policewoman's going, I'm not really into that, you know what I mean? But the guy, he's a policeman, you know, legitimate, like Elizabeth Regina 999. He's going, do you want to check that out, eh? What do you think of that, like? Some girl doing naughty things with a horse, and the policewoman's not impressed at all, you know what I mean? The WPC, she's not impressed at all, like, and they don't know she's filming them all along. It's all out there on YouTube, like. There's another incident where they're going around in the police cars all night. You only got nothing to do. You know, when you've actually got nothing to do, there's no crimes being committed, nothing to record. They sit in the panda car, what we call panda cars, you know, patrol cars. They sit in the patrol cars, right? Imagine I'm in a, you know, when do you see 2 police cars in the same area at the same time if there's nothing necessary, you know? They sort of go around silently, don't they, looking for troublemakers, or, you know, they got this way of driving really slow where there's like, you know, any alleyways or anything where it's infamous for thieves or junkies hanging around or whatever, like. And what they do in the documentary, this policewoman's obviously sitting in the police car with the guy driving, filming it all. They're playing hide and seek, you know, like, so that like 2 police cars are driving around a similar area slowly. They're not investigating nothing or searching for anyone, like, but they actually go like, so as soon as one cop car sees the other cop car, we go, spotted, see ya, we've got ya, right? And then they go, right, now it's your turn to find us. And this WPC sitting in the car, like, sort of thinking, well, that's great, you know, let's play hide and seek all night in the bloody police cars, like, you know, because there was nothing for them to do, like. She films all kinds of stuff, man. So there are honest cops out there, aren't there? That's obviously evidence of it, isn't it, that, you know. I think it's interesting, don't you? But we have to draw a line, don't we? We have to draw a line. Legalize cannabis campaign. Not because I want to do it. I don't want to do it. I want to stop doing it. But I don't like people being called criminals by Her Majesty's government, whether it's a Labour Party or Conservative Party. Her Majesty's government telling people that they're criminals for smoking herbs. It doesn't make sense. And when you've got dealers who phone the police to get you arrested, I really want it legalised. When your dealers, turned you in, like, to phone the police. That's why I want to legalise weed, mate. Because I want other people out there not to have to go through that, you know, having to go to the police station because the dealers are actually turning them in. Come on, guys, if there are any dealers out there watching, how many of you are bent and you phone the police on your mates? Come on, you know who you are. Alright, folks, thanks for watching. Lots more speeches coming up, guys. I'm taking time out and getting into this now because I've done most of my recording. And I'm feeling like getting my headspace back together again and getting into my, my speeches now, like. You're listening to Jonesy's Jukebox on KLOS Radio. That was an interview with roller coaster ride about Her Majesty's Constabulary. Alright, thanks for watching, folks. Hope this was riveting. Well, I don't think it's riveting at all myself, but it's interesting, isn't it? Kudos to the Warriors. Legalize cannabis campaign. Thanks for watching.